Well, now they're going to connected smart meters that upload the meter data once a day. And that significantly increases the number of transactions that the company looks at on an annual basis. But where this company is really going is to a system that can read power meters every 15 minutes to adjust power consumption and demand on the fly to make the entire power grid more green, more efficient. And what that will produce is to go from 12 million transactions a year to 35 billion transactions a year. This is just one example from one small power company that's using Linux in the United States. So what kind of system do you need to deal with 35 billion transactions a year, analyze them, and do something useful? Well, this is what you need. In the future, what you need for this world where everything is connected, you need instrumentation. So you need embedded operating systems like Linux inside of a power meter, or inside of a car, or inside of some sort of fleet management system. So you need these embedded systems to collect all these data. Embedded systems is the first part. Then you need network servers to gather the data. All of it has to be communicated through a network, gathered and stored. So you need big storage systems, big network computers. Then what you need is really powerful clusters of supercomputing systems to actually analyze that data. It takes a lot of raw computing power to analyze 35 billion transactions to make sense of it. Right? And this is only one small example. So you need embedded systems, you need servers, you need supercomputers, and then you need devices. Devices like this MeeGo tablet or like a cell phone to display the data, to share the data, and to interact with the data. So what you need is embedded systems, servers, supercomputers, and mobile devices. Sound familiar to anyone? There's only one platform that works across all these forms of computing. That is why Linux is the fundamental fabric. That is why it is the basis of this future of computing that we're going to, where everything is connected. Not the Internet of people, but the Internet of people and things. And the reason that Linux is succeeding, the reason that it has such good market share and is growing faster than any other platform, sound familiar to anyone? There's only one platform that works across all these forms of computing. That is why Linux is the fundamental fabric. That is why it is the basis of this future of computing that we're going to, where everything is connected. Not the Internet of people, but the Internet of people and things. And the reason that Linux is succeeding, the reason that it has such good market share and is growing faster than any other platform, is because Linux is a self-forming community. That power company did not ask anyone if they could use Linux. They didn't ask Linus Torvalds. They didn't ask me. When Intel and Nokia got together to create incredible new devices, they didn't ask anybody to use Linux. They just did it. Because Linux is free to be used by anyone. Linux can be ported to any architecture. Linux can be changed to support any type of new device, whether it's a camera or a digital sensor or anything. No one has to be asked if they can do it or not. You don't have to go and stand in line or wait for somebody to give it to you. You can go do it yourself. And that is why Linux dominates computing today and will dominate computing far, far more in the future. Because it adapts, it changes, it supports more architectures, it supports more devices, it runs in more types of machinery than any computer operating system in the history of the world. So why is the device industry turning to Linux? It's worth looking at why Linux makes sense for a company that wants to produce an automobile infotainment system, a cell phone, a television, a camera, you name it. And it's worth understanding the challenges that you face in order to take advantage of Linux. So the first reason why organizations are using Linux is fairly simple. There's a reason Nokia or Sony or any of the companies, Samsung, LG, Huawei, Cisco, I can go on and on. But there's a reason why they all use Linux and open source. It's because it saves you money. Because the world is changing due to two big pressure points that are happening in the world of mobile devices and consumer electronics and computing. And that is, before, when you created a cell phone or a consumer device, generally you would create it yourself with your own proprietary operating system, or you would license something. And then you would sell that to customers and make money. So that's the diagram on my right. Well, today that's really changing for two main reasons. First is the cost of creating a cell phone today is going up significantly. Right? These phones are not used to just make calls. They're used to check your email. They're used to take pictures, videos, share those videos. They're used to check your stock. They're complicated computers. They're very, very sophisticated operating systems in these connected devices. And the cost of creating those systems is very high because they're very complicated and fortunately very useful. So not only is the cost of creating a consumer device going up, but even worse, the amount of time a company has to make money once they've created a device is becoming smaller. Because nobody wants last year's phone, right? I mean, it's crazy, but when a phone is a year old, people already think it's obsolete. And when it's 2 years old, it's definitely obsolete, right? And so the amount of time that you actually have to sell a device is shrinking, so you make less money. So your costs are going up, and your ability to make money is going down. Well, that's a big problem for the industry, and the industry is struggling to meet this challenge. So how are they doing it? They're using open source. Because if you think about it, the closed model on my right, where you have this big increase in internal development costs and a shorter amount of time to make money, doesn't work anymore. It's just broken. You can't compete. So what companies are doing now is sharing a certain amount of their research and development. For example, in the MeeGo project, Nokia, Intel, and many other companies share their fundamental R&D. There is internal development cost, but it's much smaller, even though they're creating a very significant device. And what they're doing at the same time is selling their products that still have a short shelf life, but what they're doing is creating services, making their own app stores, creating their own music services on top of selling these devices so that they have new revenue opportunities. So they're increasing their revenue and decreasing their cost of producing these products. That is one of the most compelling reasons why people are turning to open source. And I have to say, it is really the only way that you'll be able to compete. There really is no company that's creating rich consumer experiences, consumer electronic devices, that's not using open source already. If your company is trying to maintain their own operating system and is trying to do everything closed, I wish you good luck. I don't think your company is going to be able to compete. I don't think they'll be able to survive. I mean, even Apple's products are based on BSD and open source software. In fact, if you go into the iPhone and go into the general and about section and look at the legal section, you'll find some names of Linux Foundation employees in the licensing agreements in there. There's lots of open source in these devices. And the more open source there is, the more effective these companies can compete. So that's the first reason, is saving money. The second reason is we're fundamentally redefining what a computer is. Is a smartphone a computer? Is that the new way people are going to interact with the internet?